All right, so here's a quick breakdown. We've got 4 different color images, full color. And what I'm going to do is run them through the new Quantize node that was added to Substance Designer. So what this is doing essentially is that you can grab a color amount that is set by parameter. The native one to Designer is limited to 128. I actually remade it so that you could go a full 255. That means that for each value of grayscale from and including black to white, it will assign that grayscale ID to a corresponding color that it is quantized out of this image. So what I mean by that is that I've reduced this image to 255 different colors that it puts into a palette right here. And then it makes an ID map of that same image from black to white. So for each of these, black, it will move it down another value on that palette. So for black, it would be this color, black +1, black +2, black +3, etc. Down that whole entire image. So then I do this to those four different images and then pack them into each channel, red, green, blue, alpha. Now the palettes themselves, I pull out and then stack them together with one another so that I have the values for each of these on top of one another that then I store at the very tippy top of this image. Single pixel for going horizontally or lookup that I'm going to store for each of these images. So when I go to the engine, I've got essentially each of these color photos stored in a single channel. So if I come to this and I come to the texture itself, we've got that same one. We've got all of the different lookup tables stored up in here. But then when I take this, I can essentially, using a switch that I put into the shader, change each of these 4 images to something else. So I can start here, move to here, here, and here. All of these images come from a single texture, and each one of them is stored as a single grayscale channel. And then the color is reconstituted through the lookup table at the very top. So to do that, basically what's happening is taking the UVs and then I'm reducing them as small as physically possible so that all of the UVs fit into a single pixel that is on the top, starting at 0, 0, which is the top right here. And then for each grayscale value, that is stepping the UVs over one value for each grayscale value that's inside of there. So for black, it leaves it right at the at 0, 0. Black +1 moves it over a pixel. Black +2 moves it over a pixel, etc. And then you just take those UVs and you slap it back into the image itself, and you get these full color images. Now, fun part about this is that, sure, you're getting 4 full color images, or at least 255 color images from a single texture. The rub here is that since you have to use different UVs for each of those images or each of those channels, you're not really getting much of an advantage. It's essentially a wash because you have 4 texture samples on a single texture, and you're not really getting much of an advantage there, because even if it's a single texture, which is great, and rather than 3 or 4 separate textures, you still get to sample each one of them of their UVs separately. But you can do things like this, or you could even do something like this, this entire setup that you see here, the base color, an ORM, and a normal map, are all thrown into a single texture the same exact way. So for this one in particular, we'll just take a look at the texture. That is this right here. So here's my grayscale index for my diffuse, my base color, my normal map, and my ORM. And then alpha doesn't really store anything right now, but essentially the same thing. Store each one of them in a grayscale ID. I've got my little tiny lookup table up here. Move the UVs around, and you get this. It is color, ORM, and the normal map, all from that single texture. And the results look like what you'd expect if this was a model that had 3 separate RGB textures. So I don't know. It's a fun little test, but how far could you actually take this? And would there actually be any real advantage to doing something like this? Let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are.